That's right, yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Frostside Chat, our weekly live stream post-session discussion where we talk about what just happened during D&D. This is the chat for session 37, so if you've not watched that session yet, please go do that now because there will be spoilers. I'm your DM, Eric. Joining me, we have All Robin's player, Chris.
Hello.
Edmund's player, Raymond. This was basically the boss fight of the East Haven adventure. You correctly surmised the dragon is not the boss fight.
Yeah,
Was this thing.
which I guess was really surprised. At the end, it made perfect sense that, of course, the dragon wouldn't attack the place that it knows the Storger allies are, but it never even
No.
occurred to me as
So
like a possibility.
here's my thought is that it's so cold that the fire won't penetrate, and the driver, knowing this, break in to attack them.
Yeah,
Think
the
there.
Storger would not disrupt the spell or disrupt the protection.
But yeah, you can presume there were some tactics that were programmed because these were all, obviously Tori that were already set out here before you guys had even probably gone to Sunblight. And then the dragon had its pre-programming, so whatever instructions were included in that were part of the battle plan here.
At that point, it's like a I don't know, like a programmed drone. It's got coordinates. It's like, we're not gonna attack this specific coordinate field, but everywhere else around it,
Yeah.
it's gonna raise.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it was a whole twist about the bubble wasn't the force field. It wasn't even going to
Yeah.
attack the town hall in general, but the bubble wasn't designed to protect the force field or protect the town hall anyway. It was just a side effect of this ritual that it was creating.
Yep.
Which was this zone of cold to create something that you're not sure what it is.
Some kind of summon, some kind of avatar creature thing.
So much came, with these big fights. So much comes down to the damn initiative roll, and you guys did so well on your initiative.
Really well.
Yeah, so that kind of put a damper in terms of the damage that was done. I will tell you, Chris, my plan was the reason I rolled for the commoners was because, and I pre-rolled this during the crafting stream. I said, well, all of these townsfolk who are in this area are going to be affected by this confusing gaze, but I don't want to roll for everybody. So during the crafting stream, I literally just pre-rolled all of their saving throws and all those d8s individually for all those tokens to see, like, okay, how many would be affected by what, and I came up with one person that would do the attack. Like, most people failed, but also because the D8.
You were trying to kill me with a commoner.
Yes. Yes. I thought if the commoner beats you on initiative, what's going to happen, which is still has to roll an attack roll to hit you.
Yeah.
But then obviously the one who fails is going to be the one next to Valravn, and that one's just going to turn around and shank you, and I can down you by doing that. And I was like, that's going to be such a beautiful.
An ignominious end.
Yes. Yes. Just a confused, mind-dominated commoner would just stab you and down you
with like a kitchen knife.
Yes. Yeah, just a dagger attack. Yeah, because you could see they only do like 2 or 3 damage, but you only had 1 hit point. I was like, this would be glorious. Instead, you rolled fucking amazing for initiative.
Yeah.
And then the commoners just have straight d20. So that was the only reason I rolled for them, because of that one possibility. And then I went ahead and did execute it. I think it just did like 2 damage to Celeste or something. Yeah. But after that, I rolled another round, and I was like, okay, nobody attacks that round. So after that, I'm not going to bother pre-rolling anything. I'm just gonna have them flee out there. So that was really the only reason I even did that. Otherwise, I would just montage everybody like just drooling there or anything. But I was really curious to see like how many would, if I rolled it all, how many would actually, what percentage would turn into that one attack? Because you have to fail the roll, and you have to roll a 7 or 8 on the d8 to attack, and then you have to make the attack roll successful.
So there's 4, right?
That's only 3. So you roll a d8. If you roll a 1 through, let's see, I'm looking it up.
Well, then then we know what the 3 are: attack, run away,
correct,
stand there, and do nothing.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you roll a 1 through a 4, you do nothing. You're just like stupefied for your turn. If you roll a 5 or a 6, you take no action, but use all your movement to move in a random direction. And if you roll a 7 or 8, then you make a melee attack against a random creature, or you do nothing if no creature is within your reach.
Okay.
Yeah, which
Okay.
man, the way you make a boss fight interesting is you have an ongoing effect that the boss doesn't have to use any actions or anything to do.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because it automatically puts every turn you guys are having to be affected by this.
But what it turns into is one of your PC's whole job is to mitigate that effect. That's just what we do with Celeste this round.
Yeah, that was really cool. I didn't even realize planning the session that she would be uniquely immune to the Umber Hulk's gaze because she doesn't have eyes.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could use her to like grapple the thing.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it? It's not charm. You said it's not a charm. Is it just?
I mean, I'll put it in the chat just so you can see it. I avoided doing that in case I had any spoil because I don't want to, show my hand too much, but
Right.
just says the Umber Hulk can magically force it to make a DC 15 Charisma saving throw unless the Umber Hulk is incapacitated. A failed save, the creature can't take reactions, which we probably missed that a couple times, whatever. The start of its next turn and rolls a d8 to determine what it does during that turn, is all the things I described.
Okay.
And then you can avoid it, and the Medusa works the same way. There might be like a Basilisk or something, also Cockatrice, where you can, as a player, you can, the way I flavored it is like when it first appears, you're just going to see it because you're just drawn to whatever caused this thing. You don't have a choice. It's going to affect you the first round.
It's like the surprise round.
Right.
We don't have an opportunity.
Yeah, you don't know what's coming out of it. You're just going to look at it. So I didn't give anybody a chance the first round, if you notice. And then the second round, I said, okay, now that you know what it does, now you can choose to avert your eyes or accept the Charisma save, which impressively, most of you accepted the save. The only time I think was Edmund, who retreated down the stairs because he didn't want to target it anyway.
Yeah.
Which, it was interesting. It didn't fuck you guys up too much. I think it mainly fucked up Frey.
Yeah.
Was the worst one because she got hit by it and then she had to like go down the tunnel.
Yeah.
Which stopped her.
Pretty bad.
Yeah. So this was an interesting thing is I have as many Dwerger reinforcements as I want. They're just in a dimensional pocket. And so I'm debating on how many to use. And when this fight first started and things were kind of... What's interesting is when it first started, I was freaking out because Frey and somebody else... I forgot who else attacked it. Maybe Edmund? I don't know. But
Edmund was right up on it.
Yeah. Did like half the damage to it, like real quick. Like the first round or two, it has 89 hit points, and you guys did like 40 fucking damage to it. Maybe Thimbleweed hit with an arrow or something happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, I gotta bring in these other Dwerger, because it was literally just, I think I was always gonna bring in 2, and I had 2 more. I was thinking like, okay, do I need to bring them in or not? And then it worked out funny where I was still debating on, okay, when do I bring in this other one? And then that happened where the confusing gaze started fucking you guys up, and it fucked up Frey to have her go down the tunnel. I was like, well, let's have her run into another Dwerger.
Well, I mean, we've run into this problem before where without Celeste being fully herself,
Yeah.
our damage is Frey and Thimbleweed.
Yeah.
So if either one of them gets fucked up, then we are just not doing damage that round.
Thimbleweed.
We had one round where Frey ran and Thimbleweed missed.
Yeah, he was rolling pretty bad for rolls, and I think
there was one round we did 0 damage.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, and all of a sudden, the Dwerger came out, and all of a sudden, this Umber Hulk, which was losing hit points rapidly, suddenly was at half hit points for like 2 full rounds or something. Yeah. Now, at the same time, it made the fight last a while. It was really funny. You guys actually debuffed and shut it down pretty effectively instead of just attacking it, because the slow spell was a great job again, because it's got triple attack, and then Celeste grappling it. Basically, I guess I could have had it stayed grappled and just attack somebody with its claws or something, but I still flavored it as like, it wants to get out of the situation, and it's so strong you think it'd be able to rip out, but I think twice it like wasn't able to get out of it.
I mean,
so you effectively shut it down without killing it, and then you just had to deal with the fact that it was still doing its gaze, and then the other Dwerger was still there.
Right. Yeah. And that was my logic, was that, like, okay, with the Potion of Growth, she gets advantage on all of those strength checks.
Yeah.
So just, have her just try to hold the thing in place.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, unfortunately, the Spore Serpent thing is, now that I used her last round, like, really the demotion of, I guess it's her wisdom that she's using for, like, attack rolls. There's something that's messing up her attack rolls. And I was like looking at the ACs and everybody. I'm like, she's not gonna hit anybody.
Yeah,
she's just gonna go around missing all day.
Yeah. So.
Oh, my initial plan. I didn't ever actually do this because once you told me that the Umber Hulk's gaze would affect whoever he was looking at, I was like, oh well, I'm gonna change my idea. I said the bedroll and the rope.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
She was literally gonna go up to the. I was gonna have her go up to the Umber Hulk and just try to use the bedroll as just like a uh, bag over the head, and just
Okay.
tie just over the head of the Umber Hulk and just try to tie it. That's her whole like function. Just try to get a bag over the head of this Umber Hulk just to nullify the vision thing.
Yeah. I think I would have worked around that in terms of like, okay, this is going to be an action, but it's going to require like a sleight of hand or some, check to
Yeah,
do it. And if you were successful, I think it would have worked until the creature's turn would have been to obviously just get it off. Yeah.
yeah. So once I
So
realized like, oh, she can actually like turn it
I
on the
totally
head of
forgot
the
about
little
that
Hulk.
though. There was
Like,
just so
no,
much
that's
going
better.
on. I thought initially you were doing that to like erect some kind of wall to like break line of sight to
Oh,
like
yeah.
create a cover system to where, but then you actually, this was actually not a bad battlefield because you had this room right here that you used very effectively once you stepped out. I was like, oh wait, I can just duck behind here and keep popping it out.
Yeah.
So it was mainly just affecting Frey and Edmund
Yeah.
for being in this room.
So I got a question. Was the Mind Master solely there to control the Umber Hulk? Is that its sole function?
Yeah, so this was a little bit of DM magic because obviously it can't really mentally dominate monsters, but I was like, well, let's just say it can for the purposes of this because that's fun. Like,
It's been
how.
something or erased it or something.
So I can go and explain. This creature is actually in Sunblight, and you first encounter it in the room right before the throne room if you're going through the forge where there's a path to the Underdark, and you're supposed to find just a bunch of Dwerger and large Dwerger, I think, with like chains around the thing, and they got like a bag over its head. And then if you come across it, they literally just remove the bag and turn invisible, and you have to fight an Umber Hulk. Which is fun, but I didn't want to use it because it was weird timing and there was so much going on, and Umber Hulks are big creatures. I was like, let's not do that. So then we got all the way to the end of planning East Haven. I was like, I want to have a boss fight here. They're not going to fight the dragon. Why don't we have this Umber Hulk just fucking burst out of this room, and that's the boss fight. But I
Nice.
wanted, and initially I thought, okay, I'm really talking a lot about what I did on crafting. Initially I thought, okay, we'll have, I don't know, they've got the chains, they've got the bat, maybe it's got like a helmet thing, and they can, because they're engineers, so maybe they can do, I was really trying to tie myself in a knot, trying to figure out a way for like, how are they actually controlling this creature? Okay, we can use the Mind Master. And then at the last second, I was like, I think I did this actually after the crafting and on Friday last week, because I described it on last week's session. The fact that I was like, all right, the Mind Masters can shrink themselves. What if they, because again, they're engineers, they create this little tank thing on top of it. And then, he's using his Mind Master control powers to basically keep it focused on its objectives. Because otherwise, it's kind of a wild, semi-wild. I guess it's, actually has an intelligence of 9, so it's not really a wild animal, but this monster focused on doing its objectives. So the idea was you guys could target. What I ruled in my notes was that the Mind Master is using his actions every turn to maintain control of the Umber Hulk. And as long as he maintains control, two things happen. One, the Umber Hulk will not use its... the other Dwerg are not affected by its confusing gaze. And B, the Umber Hulk will not attack those Dwerg. It will just attack the enemies. So you guys could break the Mind Master's concentration by attacking him, in which case he would spend his and initiative matters then because he would spend his next turn just simply regaining control. He wouldn't, he just spent his action to do that. Or you could obviously slay the Mind Master, in which case the Umber Hulk just becomes a effectively wild monster and could very well attack. And more importantly, if it got low enough on hit points, it would flee of its own accord, versus the Dwerger are there to fight to the death.
Okay.
So, and a miniaturized Mind Master has much higher AC than a normal creature. And I put it inside a tank turret, so I'm like, let's give it 3/4 cover, which is +5 AC. So it had an AC in the 20s.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah, so it was not easy to target that thing. Now, I still thought, okay, you guys have all these interesting magic spells and creative things. I'm sure you'll come up with, come up with some way to nullify that creature. Or you might just get some, Thimbleweed might just get some fucking killer hits because he's rolling 28s and shit. So he could shoot and stab it. And, Mind Master does have more than average hit points, but could very well have, been annihilated or whatever else. So that was my reasoning is this is, so he wasn't necessarily meant to be an active combatant. Now, had you guys slaughtered the Umber Hulk early, which it looks like you were going to do for the first 2 rounds, then obviously the Mind Master will become a combatant. He's lost his mount, but he still wants to fight to the death. He's got presumably his minions there. So it was kind of an interesting just side thing. But I was really playing with it in terms of, okay, what is his purpose here? What can he do? And that's it was never meant to have him be his own action thing to where he was doing things. I wanted to make it so, okay, this is the reason why the Umber Hulk is, why they're able to use this Underdark creature for their purposes,
Sure.
instead of just unleashing this, creature into here and hoping for the best. So they actually had a plan.
That makes perfect sense. Also, I don't know if you intended to describe it this way, but it sounded like you were describing it like the Mind Master was clearing the Umber Hulk of any ongoing effects too, because I considered suggesting the Umber Hulk at one point, but then I remembered you saying like something like the Mind Master like clears it of its of the thing of its frighten. I'm like, oh, well, maybe he can just clear it of the suggestion then, so maybe I don't want to mess with the
This
Umber
was
Hulk?
tricky because I decided to do it against Fierce Fright because I was just a mental condition. It's like, all right, the Mind Master would be a fun thing he can do on his action. Like, oh, get a target that Mind Master is doing that. But then when you started casting like real spells, I was like, all right, that'd be a little cheaty for me to just use his action to remove spells.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily want to just have him be able to like dispel magic instantly or something like that. So I drew, if it was just a regular mental condition that you guys were inflicting on him, then that would be one thing. But the one thing I thought about doing is maybe conferring the advantage to spells that the Mind Master could do, but ultimately I decided that might make things too challenging. So I pulled back on that. But yeah, that was a tricky thing. I was trying to adjudicate that during the session. Yeah. But ultimately I decided like, okay, he can get rid of Frey's Frighten thing, which still affected the Umber Hulk for I think a solid round, I think.
Yeah, or for a round, yeah.
But for actual spells, I had it to where he had to get rid of the spells himself, which, man, that slow spell affected him, I think, the entire time.
That slow spell's been golden.
I can't even believe all 3 out of 3 times this entire... I think you've used it every engagement for every fight we've had in East Haven. You've used it to very good effect. Because, yeah, that thing normally has 3 attacks.
I mean, everything is great about it. I mean, everything's good about it. Except for the multi-attack turning to only one. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is just primo.
That is good.
Fucking 3 attacks and 2 attacks go down to 1 attack per turn is just great.
That's really good, yeah. And lowering the AC was pretty good, too. I think it allowed, like, 1 or 2 extra hits on it, which was effective. Sure. I mean, but yeah, going from 3 attacks to 1 is brutalizing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty effective. I'm mastering the encounter without being an encounter. Yeah, that was kind of the idea. Right. And the idea was, again, if you had killed the Umber Hulk early on and the Mind Master's still not dead, then it would have become he would probably sit in his turret and just Mind Master people, which would be a pain in the ass for you guys, but it wouldn't be hard then at that point to crawl in there and open it up and get to him.
That was my fear when the fight started. I was like, oh, God, is he going to just sit up there in that turret?
And can't
get to him, and he's like, just doing that mind control shit to everybody in the room?
Yeah.
Awful.
That would be awful. But no, he was. Yeah, I had it to where he was like he was basically using all that power to control the Umber Hulk.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, absolutely.
Which, man, you just legit, I think I'd failed that saving with advantage. Fucking
once
wisdom.
I realized that Umber Hulk had none of the dwarven resistances.
Yeah.
And his wisdom save was bad. I was like, oh, suddenly all my spells are viable here. Because the dwarves have always been tricky because they got their.
But you rolled that suggestion on the Mind Master, which I was so impressed by because he does have like a +2 to wisdom and he's got the advantage.
I gotta use the combo though.
The unsettling, yeah.
Get that off, yeah. Which 5 bardic inspirations per short rest. It's like, why not try?
You do a great job at that too. You use that, you throw that shit out like candy. Which once you get on a short rest, you might as well because you can assume you get a short rest like almost between every fight.
Yeah.
Unless it's just a really small, inconsequential fight, which so far these have not been that.
Right. I do appreciate, and this is why I think this is why Edmund got the MVPC, is that he foregoed all the cool stuff he was gonna do.
Oh,
and saved the objective of the
fight. Now that he's back, we'll talk about the badass stuff he wanted to do in detail. But I really, and you got the MVPC, I think, Ray, for actually saving Ravison from danger, which I appreciate. And I will say, straight up, I wrote in my notes, and I said, if the players are kind or save or otherwise protect Ravison, because between you and me, she's always got this death scene. Like, no matter what happens, she's going to be in her death throes, and then the ice thing, I mean, even if she takes no damage, that ice thing's still going to happen. So technically,
the item we got is a plot item, is what you're saying.
You got the plot. You know what you got? The information that unleashing the avatar fucking kills you. She was not going to tell you that.
Okay.
Unless you helped her. And then that was the extra bit of information that was literally your reward for helping her, was information, because she was always doomed. So technically, mechanically, that was pointless to do that. You didn't know that at the time. But I wanted to write in my notes. I was like, I want to reward the players for doing something to help her in some way.
Even if the dwarf had like prematurely killed her, it would have still been the same.
I mean, it's not going to happen, is what I'm saying. I'm in control of everything. Ultimately, you don't know how many hit points she has. You have no. I'm always describing this her taking a lot of damage to make it narratively exciting, but she was never going to get fully killed. I mean, unless there's somehow TPK here, which really doesn't happen. But the idea being, she was always going to be in dramatic danger, but she was always going to have this death throw, and then ultimately that ice thing seals her fate. But what was important is, the reward was the extra bit of information you got, which could obviously, and it sounds like it's already changing the minds of like, oh, okay, now we know who we want to actually use this thing on versus, somebody else is going to get that effect instead of it being like a shocker.
Oh man, I played right into it, but I guess it's good with information.
No, it's good information. Yeah, I think so. And like I said, I always am very appreciative of players who go the extra mile when it comes to heroism, especially if you're foregoing doing the hack and slash thing, and you're like, I could do a cool attack or a big attack, but also this NPC's in danger that I could save. That, as a DM, I always want to reward that, especially. Ultimately,
I don't know if my threat would have worked, but I was gonna aim that beam cannon in his face, and then I wasn't sure if it was gonna get out or what. But then when you started hacking at Ravison, I was like, all right, I can always beam, and I was gonna go through the Umbra Hulk head and through that Dwerger. From killing Ravison.
I love it. We got like the blue balls for your beam attack. Because you keep wanting to use it and charging it, and it just never gets used yet.
It'll go off someday.
I know.
It'll be amazing.
Well, it'd be interesting because the Dwerger are fighting to the death, but they actually would recognize that arm because they were the ones that built the fucking thing.
Right.
So they'd be like, "Oh shit, where did you get that arm?" So I don't know how I would have flavored that. That would have been interesting. Because you would have basically annihilated him by sitting there, and that would have been cool. Just sitting there, like, just point blank blast that thing in his face.
A little sick.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't have surrendered. Probably would have tried to fuck off and like escape. Which at that point it would have broken control of the Umber Hulk, so that would have changed things around too. Yeah.
Kind of my goal, but
yeah. And it would have immediately fled, but my idea was if it's ever not under the Mind Master's control and it gets down to like 20 hit points or something, then it just uses its action to disengage and flee back down the tunnel. Because it's not there to fight to the death. It doesn't want to be here. It's way out of its territory.
Jay wanted to see Edmund fill up the turret with the alchemy jug.
Oh, that'd be funny. You cast like create water or something and fill it up.
Oh yeah, you took a good point. I was thinking of using my alchemy jug, and I can turn it into like poison or something. But I was gonna dump it into the slot as well.
Into the slot, yeah, that's funny. I had a feeling when I created that, I was like, there's all kinds of funny shenanigans they're gonna try to do it, but ultimately you guys ended up having your hands full mostly with all the shit that was going on. Edmund had started his process of doing something, and then because Ravison got attacked, had to get distracted. Which
I was like, oh damn.
And I think that makes the fight fun when you've got different things going on. There's reinforcements. There's an NPC you have to protect. There's the creature's being controlled by something. You have different options in combat, different things you need to analyze, different tactics you need to make versus, okay, I run up here and attack the creature. Although that's always certainly an option. God, I got so close to. So Valrobin I was never able to hit. Because initiative didn't help me, and then you fled, and frankly, it meant all the melee people were able to run up there and immediately engage the Umber Hulk, so it never moved. It just could sit there and attack everybody. So that was a big deal, because I had a big drama about I was going to pick up Ravison and throw it across. I was going to do all that description and fuck her up a lot doing that. And instead, it just kind of sat there and unfortunately didn't attack much, but the fight still ended up being, I think, very dynamic and fun. Had you not gotten the slow off, I can't even imagine. how much damage
Three
that thing would have
attacks.
done.
That first round,
Yeah,
Frey took so much goddamn damage.
yeah.
I mean, that first round.
Rage is the real deal.
Yeah, all three of the Umber Hulk's attacks hit.
I think the Dwergers were hitting
I think two
too.
of the pickaxes nailed her.
Yeah.
It's just she was taking it from all sides for a bit.
Those Dwerger like rarely missed an attack, I feel like, too, and they don't have a very
Yeah.
impressive stat block. It was just going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just, excuse me, inspired by using this cool creature. We hadn't seen it in a while. It's very awesome, and it was actually in Sunblight, which means it's in the campaign, but I didn't use it there, so I thought this was a cool opportunity to use it.
It's also like a thematically logical use too, because like it's just you took where it would have been in the campaign and just
Had to be part of the
timeline.
yeah.
Yeah, like, well, what would they have done?
Yeah, it was it was weaponized, it was
Yeah.
captured, and it was sent on this mission to take over, I guess, the town hall and
Exactly.
everybody inside.
You just took it to its logical conclusion, which was
Yep.
an armed, controlled Umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah, and I knew you guys wanted a long rest here, and you've been through a lot, but I was like, God, it really just doesn't sit well with me that you guys can long rest in the middle of this war zone still. The fact your allies are still out there. So
that's fair.
I'm glad you picked up on it, and also realize that I feel where you're at with that. So I can already tell you're not going to run into any combat between here and Bryn Shander. I've got some more narrative stuff planned, of course, but in fact, I fully expect next session to have no combat whatsoever. If we're being honest, like there's going to be a lot of storytelling and just role playing stuff. I think it'll be a big social one.
Yep. Yeah.
And then I guess all that's left is a little cutscene with Ravison, which went pretty much.
Yeah.
I wanted to, which was the you guys gained the artifact.
Not how I expected our relationship with her to end.
Yeah.
I expected it to be far more hostile of an end than that, but
it's kind of full of twists in here, wasn't it? Like the freezing zone wasn't a bubble of defense, and it turns out she might not have been a good character, but it was definitely like she also is very much against the Dwerger threat. So in that case, I was like, oh, okay. And I like that you picked up on it. Ray initially was like, okay, we got to attack her. We got to attack this person. Like, no. I think she's creating something that could help us. And you're right about that. It doesn't necessarily make her a good person.
Yeah.
But it does make her a helpful ally.
Mm-hmm. What's the character I'm thinking of? The Game of Thrones character, the Fire Lady.
Oh yeah. Melisandre.
Melisandre, right? Not Melisandre. That's the other one. Melisandre. Yeah. Yeah, like she does terrible things.
Yes.
She burned a child alive. She's doing a lot.
Gave birth to a shadow monster at one point.
Yeah. But she's doing it in the end goal.
The interest of you might not agree with her methods, but do the ends justify the means? Yeah, that's something I was going with here for sure. Morally dubious, but you guys are now in possession of supposedly this powerful weapon.
Yeah. Which I don't know how I feel about us using a powerful weapon of a goddess that seems to be involved in the curse on this land. But what are you going to do?
Sometimes extreme measures.
Did we decide at the end we would not tell the person using it that they would die?
We haven't decided.
Totally up to you.
I did mention that. Like,
that's on you. I just gave you that information again as a reward, specifically for the way Raymond treated Ravison. I added that little bit of extra information in there. Like, by the way,
Heather was saying the asshole used car salesman speaker is the one we should convince to do it.
Yeah. So one thing, and Heather was speaking of this, which I do have notes about this. The fact that Ray sent the homunculus off to warn Bryn Shander. So the time frame, you'll probably be expecting a message back around the time you're leaving. And then you'll have to work out the timing of, and I'm working out too on my end in terms of, how many people got responses, what does that response look like, how many people have made it to Bryn Shander. Like I'm basically working on all that kind of information as well. This was relatively easy. Anytime you have a big battle, that's great because it allows me to get ahead of things because I don't have to plan the minutia of a fight, and I know it's going to last a while. So instead, I just had the little cutscene, and then I was able to plan a lot of the information that I'll probably be working on again next week in terms of the timing and the situation involved in this, basically this big crisis.
Yeah.
And you guys got the dramatic part of the crisis where you were in the middle of a big war zone, and now you're going to be in the kind of after effects of a humanitarian crisis, basically. As you head to Bryn Shander.
Yep.
Oh, does our exhaustion only go away with long rests?
It does.
Hmm.
Yep. It removes 1 level of exhaustion per long rest.
Oh, let me.
Have
I
you been healing?
I think I might have been cheating this entire session.
Oh. How long have you had multiple
'cause-
exhaustions?
No, Celeste is exhausted, which means, if I'm reading this correctly,
Oh, disadvantage on
As-
ability checks.
she was using advantage the entire.
Can
fight.
she be exhausted? Have you checked her character sheet?
I have no idea. No.
I don't know if I actually added condition immunities because
I don't
she
think
might
you did,
actually
yeah,
she might actually be immune.
That would make some sense, I think, but I don't know if that's Let's check with the chat. Oh, yeah, you're right, David. That's like, David. That is a good point. As soon as Frey went down to that tunnel, Eric, you had to basically make a choice.
I did.
Choose. How many dwarves are down there?
I did have to make a choice. So when she went down there, I was like, okay, there's 1 dwerger down here because I realized like, oh no, my he puts my dimensional pockets being exposed.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's throw 1 down there to make it interesting.
Yeah.
And that's how it ended up. So it ended up being an Umber Hulk, the Mind Master, and 3 dwerger. But the Mind Master was technically not an active combatant.
Okay.
He was just doing some things.
Yeah. And I agree. It was that, Jay. That was very cool narratively. Her being down there with like no HP, and then her just like rising up and healing up. And
You're right. Or sorry, it's she is not immune to exhaustion. She's immune to blind, charmed, frightened, and paralyzed. So that was a bank error in your favor then, because
yeah,
I guess I just meant she wouldn't have had advantage on a lot of those
She would not have had
strength
advantage.
checks. I had no idea
Would
she
have
was
had- Normally, a
exhausted.
disadvantage and the growth would have countered the disadvantage.
Right.
Okay.
I'm never looking at y'all's character sheet, so I didn't realize she was exhausted. But that's right, because it was from the cold.
Okay. Yeah,
Whenever you guys stepped in the cold,
that's right.
you were immune to it because of the ring, and then Frey drank a potion, and the other 3 all got a level of exhaustion. Which normally 1 level is not
It didn't even occur to me that was the.
Because it's only ability checks, but she actually was
Yeah.
using ability checks the entire time. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something. I'm sure people watching the stream after the fact are like, "Oh, she should have 9 advantage there." It's like, yeah, we miss that shit all the time.
Yep.
I know, I love that too. I actually talked with Heather about that before she just went to bed. The fact that she had this amazing near death experience where I had her down to like 5 hit points or something. She was down in a tunnel with 1 dwerger. I was like, she's gonna get down here and start rolling death saves, and nobody can get to her. Like, it's gonna be fucking awful. And then immediately turn things around by rolling almost max HP on a potion and a second wind, staying alive because the rage was still up, and turning around and murdering that dwerger all in one go. I was like, well, that turned things around.
She used all of her fighter stuff this fight.
She did.
Like,
She used all of her everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was raging. She was second winding. She did the frighten maneuver. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
It was an impressive bout. And then she just ran up and casually murdered the other dwerger too.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that was the turning point on the fight for me.
That one was almost like, because it was so casual and so like just
but
it was almost like one of those off-screen moments where somebody runs down a hall and she runs after him and then
she just comes back like wiping the sword. Yeah, the turning point to me was going from her, you think she's going to go down in this hallway and die, and then immediately just murder that dwerger and come back.
Yeah. And Jay, to answer your question about the necklace, it's a bullshit item and I don't like it, and I'm going to deattune from it as soon as we log
We
in.
always forget about that thing, yeah.
Well, I just misunderstood what it did. I thought it would absorb an enemy's spell, and no enemies have cast spells.
It does if they're within, if they cast a spell within range of you, it has, I think, a chance of absorbing it, I think.
Yeah.
The idea was it has a chance of it's a wild thing, it has a chance of absorbing any spell cast within 30 feet of you, including your own spells.
Which, I don't want that to happen. Ever.
Right.
So, like, if I'm casting a spell, it's because I need it to happen right now.
But, well, I will say, if it does absorb the spell, it can only absorb 1 at a time. So once it absorbs the spell, it can't do any more. And then, technically, you can unleash that spell as a stored spell. So it works as that kind of magic. There's a magic item that does that, too. But you just can't control when it does it, basically. But it's also kind of fiddly, and it's something I tried designing, and it ends up being something that we've just forgotten about. And I guess you guys haven't actually fought a whole lot of magic spellcasters either.
I think when I was attuning to it, I was imagining like an enemy spellcaster, and I would catch or have a chance of catching their spell.
Yeah.
But we haven't fought any. I don't think we fought any spellcasters yet.
No, the biggest one
with abilities.
Yeah. The biggest one I think was the Kaer Denival fight, I think, with that one leader who was casting spells at you and you guys were in the underground river thing.
You know, I actually read something, or I don't forget if I read this or it was a YouTube video, but it was someone complaining about that with 5e monsters. They're like, there's all these feats about attacking spellcasters, but then you look at the 5e monsters.
They have spell-like abilities.
And they have abilities.
And I think they're doing more of that in the new character sheets. I think it's on purpose that a lot of monsters don't have spell casting. They just have like spell-like abilities that are essentially the same thing as a spell, but they're not a spell.
Yeah, which makes a lot of items and a lot of feats just useless.
Yeah.
Like, well, if you're not fighting spellcasters, then
Yep. Yeah, and things like counterspell, like you can get away, you can get around that because it's not a spell, it's an ability. Yeah.
Yep.
And then this is, an effect that's also not a spell, even though it says magically force.
Mind Master stuff. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So I think I think I would rather have Wand of Web than this amulet. So I'm probably gonna tune to that next time we have the opportunity.
That is fair. All right. Anything else about this session or just the East Haven thing in general? Because like I said, we're basically wrapped this up. We've got a little bit more about getting to the. You're not gonna find anything on the entrance, but we'll have a little bit of a scene there, and then you guys can start the journey. But otherwise, we're pretty much done with the East Haven section of this adventure, which is. This is all completely off book. I have not referenced the book at all in several sessions. The only thing I've referenced is technically the timing of the dragons. It meticulously does categorize how long the dragon is in each town, how long it takes to get there, how much damage it does. That's it. Everything else, this has all been very off book. And frankly, we're still going to be off book for another probably 2 sessions.
Oh yeah.
As we go to Bryn Chandler and actually deal with it. So, but I've had a lot of fun with this. Yeah,
it's unusual. It's unusual that you have this big boss monster, and then you get into a scenario where no, you can't fight it. You literally cannot fight it. It is a
force of nature
threat. Yeah.
And
you just got to deal with it. Basically, deal with the consequences of it.
Right, so my idea was, it's so boring if you guys just if we try to fight this as a straight up battle, because it's just going to try to, strafe and do all that, and I thought the best thing to do is give them the means to fight it. I'm not going to obviously talk about what that is, because that's still to come, but this was your reward for getting through this gauntlet of adventures in East Haven, was like, okay, now you've got this cryptic weapon that you can use to fight the dragon. You're not sure how it works or under what context or what it's going to do or anything like that, but it's going to do something, hopefully.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can give you an edge. And then beyond that, it's all going to be y'all's planning on what you want to do, because you would hopefully get a head start on it. Because if you look at the map of its journey, Bryn Chandler's the last destination.
Yeah, I feel bad for the northern towns, but
yeah,
we're not going to be able. We're just straight up not going to be able to chase the dragon. We're just going to end up running around in its wake if we do that.
Right? Yeah, basically. Yeah, best you can do is just hopefully they send out warnings or something.
Yeah. Hopefully our warning worked, and
East has been. That's fucking good. Somebody earlier in the chat mentioned the fact they're gonna have to rename 10 towns to 1 town or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This is. And I liked this adventure a lot for this, because it's like, holy shit, this is a giant catastrophic thing happening that I don't know if we've ever done something like this in a campaign. Even when I did the WMDs and Prince of the Apocalypse, it didn't seem like it was nearly. I think you guys just diffused them all or something. It was never a big crisis situation.
Never a thing that was gonna go off.
Yeah, and Tomb was so far removed from everything. I guess the closest would be your campaign doing Storm Kings with the giant sieges. But I think in all those chances, we were able to fend them off.
Yeah.
Essentially,
we were able to. The idea, which was the intention of those fights, was you were able to defend the towns. So yeah, this is definitely.
Whereas here, this is one that you're basically losing. You're it's just about survival, which.
Yeah.
pretty fucking
I like it.
interesting.
It turns it into like a disaster movie where it's
Yes.
like, oh no, this is just a thing that's happening. You just got to
Yeah.
figure out how to deal with it.
And that's why I wanted to plan all those different events, like a disaster movie stuff would be like, you got to save somebody from the rubble, or you got to worry about like looters, opportunistic like gang members, or you have to worry about like just crowds of panicked people, or a crazy religious ritual going on that's summoning this giant frozen dome.
Yep.
All right. I think that will do it.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that will do it for Frostside chat.
Yep.
Thank you to Chris. Raymond has been summoned, but thank you to him as well. Thank you to all the fans for watching, and we will see you all next week.